Welcome to Math with Mr. J. In this video, I'm going to cover how to solve equations using the distributive property. We will start with 3 examples where we just use the distributive property on one side of the equation. And then we will move on to 2 examples where we will use the distributive property on both sides of the equation. So for all of these equations, we're going to have parentheses, and we can use the distributive property to remove the parentheses. Then we can solve. Now, I do have other videos that just focus on the distributive property. So if you need more help with the distributive property, those links are down in the description. Let's jump into number 1, where we have 5, and then in parentheses, d minus 7, end parentheses, equals 20. Now, one way we can solve this equation, we can use the distributive property to remove the parentheses and then go about isolating the variable. So when we use the distributive property, we distribute whatever's on the outside of the parentheses to the terms inside of the parentheses. So here we need to distribute 5 to d and negative 7. So 5 times d and 5 times negative 7. 5 times d gives us 5d. And then 5 times negative 7 gives us negative 35. So 5d minus 35 equals 20. So let's look to isolate that variable of d. We need to undo the subtraction first. The inverse operation of subtraction is addition. So add 35 to the left side of the equation. Whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So add 35 to the right side as well. Now on the left side, we are subtracting 35 and adding 35. So these 35s cancel each other out. We now have 5d equals, and then on the right side of the equation, we have 20 plus 35. That gives us 55. So now we have 5d equals 55. So 5 times d equals 55. We need to undo that multiplication using the inverse operation. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So divide the left side by 5. That means we need to divide the right side by 5 as well. Now on the left side of the equation, we are multiplying by 5 and dividing by 5. So these 5s cancel each other out. D is now isolated. So we have D equals, and then on the right side, 55 divided by 5 gives us 11. So D equals 11, and that's our solution. Now we can check to see if we are correct by plugging in 11 for D. So let's come to the side here and plug in 11 for D and see if this works. So we have 11 minus 7 in parentheses. Let's start there. That gives us 4. And then we have 5 times 4, which is 20. So we are correct here. D equals 11. Let's move on to number 2, where we have 3, and then in parentheses, 2x plus 4, end parentheses, equals 48. So we need to distribute 3 to 2x and to 4. So 3 times 2x is 6x, plus 3 times 4 is 12. So we get 6x plus 12 equals 48. Now let's undo that addition first. The inverse operation of addition is subtraction. So subtract 12 from the left side. We need to subtract 12 from the right side as well. The 12's on the left side, we're adding and subtracting. So these cancel out. We now have 6x equals, and then on the right side, 48 minus 12 is 36. So now we have 6x equals 36. 6 times x equals 36. So we need to undo that multiplication. The inverse operation is division. So let's divide both sides by 6. The 6's on the left side cancel each other out. X is now isolated, so we have x equals, and then on the right side, 36 divided by 6 gives us 6. So x equals 6. That's our solution. Now let's check this by plugging 6 in for x. So we have 3 and then 2 times 6 plus 4 in parentheses equals 48. So let's do the parentheses first. We have 2 times 6 is 12, plus 4 is 16. And then we have 3 times 16, which is 48. So we are correct. X equals 6. Lastly, let's move on to number 3, where we have 16 on the left side of the equation equals, and then on the right side, we have -2, and then in parentheses, 7n plus 13 end parentheses. So let's use the distributive property here in order to solve this equation. Let's distribute -2 to 7n and 13. So -2 times 7n gives us -14n, and then -2 times 13 gives us -26. So we have -14n minus 26 on the right side equals 16 on the left side. Now we need to undo subtraction first. So let's add 26 to the right side of the equation. That means we need to add 26 to the left side as well. The 26's on the right side cancel each other out. So we are left with -14n. And that equals, well, on the left side, we have 16 plus 26. That gives us 42. So now we have 42 on the left side of the equation equals, and then on the right side of the equation, -14n. So -14 times n. We need to undo that multiplication. So let's use the inverse operation, which is division. So divide the right side by -14. That means we need to divide the left side by -14 as well. These -14's cancel each other out. So we have n equals, and then on the left side, we have 42 divided by -14, a positive divided by a negative. So that's going to equal a negative. 42 divided by -14 gives us -3. So n equals -3. That's our solution. And let's check that by plugging in -3 for n and seeing if it works. So let's go to the bottom here. We have 16 equals -2. And then in parentheses, 7 times -3 plus 13. So in parentheses, 7 times -3 is -21 plus 13 gives us -8. So we have -8 and bring down that -2. So -2 times -8, a negative times a negative is a positive. So this does equal 16, and we are correct. N equals -3. So there's how to use the distributive property on one side of the equation. Let's move on to our examples where we will use it on both sides. Here are our examples where we will use the distributive property on both sides of the equations. Let's jump into number 1, where we have 6, and then in parentheses, x plus 3, end parentheses, equals 2, and then in parentheses, 4x minus 1, end parentheses. So we need to figure out what x equals here. Since we have parentheses, let's remove them by using the distributive property, and that's the first thing that we're going to do. Remember, when we use the distributive property, we distribute what's on the outside of the parentheses to the terms inside of the parentheses. So on the left side, we need to distribute 6 to x and 3. On the right side, we need to distribute 2 to 4x and -1. So on the left side, we have 6 times x and 6 times 3 here. So that gives us 6x plus 18 equals, and then on the right side, 2 times 4x gives us 8x, and then 2 times -1 gives us -2. So we subtract 2 here. So now 8x minus 2 on the right side. Now that we removed the parentheses, we can see if we have any like terms that we can combine on either side. We do not, so let's move on. We do have a variable on both sides. And remember, when we have this, we want to get the variable to one side. It does not matter which side though. Either the left side or right side will work. But my suggestion, look to avoid negatives as far as the variable goes. And we can do that by getting rid of the one with the coefficient that is smaller in value. So the number in front of the variable that is smaller in value. That's going to be 6x. That means we need to undo or get rid of the 6x on the left side of the equation. Now that's a positive 6x. So the inverse operation that we need to use is subtraction. So let's subtract 6x from the left side. Whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So subtract 6x from the right side as well. Now, as far as the left side of the equation, these 6x's cancel each other out. We have positive 6x minus 6x. So again, they cancel each other out. So now we have 18 on the left side equals, and then on the right side, we have 8x minus 6x. We can subtract those like terms there. That gives us 2x. And then we can bring down the rest of that side of the equation, so minus 2. Now we have 2x minus 2 on the right side equals 18 on the left side. Now the variable is on one side of the equation, and we can look to solve. We need to isolate that variable of x by using inverse operations and going in the reverse order of operations. So we need to undo the subtraction first. The inverse operation of subtraction is addition, so let's add 2 to the right side of the equation. Whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other, so add 2 to the left side as well. Now on the right side, we are subtracting 2 and adding 2, so these 2's cancel each other out. And now we just have 2x equals, and then on the left side, 18 plus 2 gives us 20. So now we have 2x on the right side equals 20 on the left side. So 2 times x equals 20. Let's isolate that variable of x by using the inverse operation. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So divide the right side by 2. That means we need to divide the left side by 2 as well. On the right side, we are multiplying by 2 and dividing by 2. So these 2's cancel each other out. X is now isolated. So we have x equals, and then on the left side, 20 divided by 2 gives us 10. So x equals 10. That's our solution. Now let's check that solution by plugging 10 in for x. So let's come to the side here. So we have 6, plug in 10 for x, and then we can see if this works. Let's start with the left side here. So we have 10 plus 3 in parentheses. That gives us 13. And then 6 times 13 gives us 78. Now we need to check the right side. If we are correct, if x does equal 10, then that side will equal 78 as well. Let's start with the parentheses. So we have 4 times 10, which is 40, minus 1 is 39. So now we have 2 times 39, which is 78. Both sides are equal. They both equal 78. So we are correct. x equals 10. Let's move on to number 2 and try another example. Let's jump into number 2 here, where we have -4 and then in parentheses 3a minus 9 end parentheses equals 3 and then in parentheses -7a plus 9 end parentheses. Let's start by using the distributive property to remove the parentheses. On the left side, we need to distribute -4 to 3a and -9. Keep in mind, we are using the sign that is in front, so that's a -4 that we are distributing. On the right side, we need to distribute 3 to -7a and 9. Let's start with the left side of the equation here. So we have -4 times 3a, that gives us -12a. Then we have -4 times -9. Remember, a negative times a negative equals a positive. So this gives us plus 36 equals, and then on the right side, we will start with 3 times -7a. That gives us -21a. And then we have 3 times 9, which gives us 27. So plus 27. So now we can look to combine any like terms on either side if we have any, which we don't, but we do have variables on both sides. So again, we need to get the variable on one side of the equation. Let's get rid of the variable with the coefficient that is smaller in value, that number in front of the variable that is smaller in value. That's going to be -21a. This will help us keep our coefficient positive and just make things a little simpler to work with. Now that's a -21a, so we need the inverse operation. That's going to be addition. We want to add a positive 21a in order to get rid of the variable from that side. Whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So add 21a to the left side as well. Now on the right side of the equation, we have a -21a plus a positive 21a. So these cancel each other out. And now we just have 27 on the right side equals, and then on the left side, we have -12a plus a positive 21a. That gives us positive 9a. And then bring down the rest of the left side of the equation. So plus 36. And now we have 9a plus 36 equals 27. So we need to undo that addition first. What's the inverse operation of addition? Well, subtraction. So subtract 36 from the left side. And then we need to subtract 36 from the right side as well. On the left side, we are adding 36 and subtracting 36. So these 36s cancel each other out. Now we have 9a equals, and then on the right side, we have 27 minus 36. That gives us -9. So now we have 9a equals -9. 9 times a equals -9. What's the inverse operation of multiplication? Well, division. Divide the left side by 9. That means we need to divide the right side by 9 as well. On the left side, we are multiplying by 9 and dividing by 9. These 9s cancel each other out. A is now isolated. So we have A equals, and then on the right side, -9 divided by 9 gives us -1. So A equals -1, and that's our solution. Now let's check that solution by plugging in -1 for A and seeing if this works. So we have -4 and then 3 times -1 minus 9 equals 3 and then -7 times -1 plus 9. Let's go through the left side of the equation first, where we will start with the parentheses. So we have 3 times negative 1. And let's do this step by step here. So this gives us negative 3 minus 9. Negative 3 minus 9 is negative 12. And then we have negative 4 times negative 12, which gives us 48. Now for the right side. So let's start with the parentheses and we will go step by step here. So negative 7 times negative 1 gives us a positive 7 plus 9. So now we have 7 plus 9, which is 16. And then we end with 3 times 16, which is 48. So both sides equal 48 here. We are correct. A equals negative 1. So there you have it. There's how to solve equations using the distributive property. I hope that helped. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, peace.